So this is going to be a short video to show how to register the details of a server in the connectathon manager. To start with, go to the connectathon site. Be careful of the URL because connectathon manager supports a number of different events. We're currently talking about con7, which is the May con27, which is the May 2021 event. So I go to that URL. Now if I haven't logged in before, or if I'm on a different browser, then I'll need to register with the application. And I will do so by clicking on the new person, and then I could just enter my name. It needs to be unique. I'm going to call myself David Hay II. Okay, and that simply registers me as being the user. The only real purpose of the user account really is just so that we know, particularly for things like adding tests, recording the results of tests, who the person was who made them. We don't use it in any other way. Now you'll see that there are a number of tabs here. The tab we're interested in is the servers tab. So I'll click on that and we'll see a list of the existing servers that are currently configured. We see their name, the URL to the root and to the user interface, the file version, description and notes, and the tracks within which these servers have been designated to work. I'll talk more about that in just a second. To add your own server, you click on the new server link. You then give it a name. So I'm going to add the URL for my good friend Peter Jordan, and that's normally termnz, like so. Now the contact person will default to the currently logged in person. I could set it to somebody else if I wanted to by typing, but I'll leave it to me for the moment. I'll just fix that there. Next I put the URL to where the server root is, and I will paste in, whoops, that's not what the one I wanted. I will get the server URL from here and I will paste it into there. Next I click on the check capability statement. As you're aware, all Fire servers need to expose a capability statement at their root. This is a way of checking that you've entered or that there is a server sitting at this address, and as you can see, the capability statement was returned. This actually gives us the ability to look at some of the capabilities of the server. You'll see this new tab appears here after the capability statement. This is really the capability statement, which you can actually see there if you really want to, parsed into its individual parts. So you can see that this server supports the code system resource. The R means it supports read, i.e. you can get something back knowing its ID. S stands for search, and you can see in this particular case there's a limited set of resources that termnz supports. They are the terminology ones. It's a terminology server. We can look at those details as we wish to. In particular, note that there's no way of writing back to this server. This is a read-only server. We will return to the description. We can enter the URL here if there's a user interface that the server exposes. The Happy4 server, for example, does that. There's the file version, which was read from the capability statement. There's notes and descriptions. There's a basic part pulled in from the capability statement itself, but you can update that if you want to. And finally, a box here which allows you to enter other notes about this server. For example, you might need to have an OAuth token, for example. We've looked at server capability. The next thing we'll look at is associated tracks. Now what this is doing is this is saying that this particular server can be used in these actual tracks. So it's like a server assertion that it's useful. So I might say that this server is useful for the test script and fire testing. It doesn't mean that it's not useful for any of the other tracks, just that this particular server either has been designed or is particularly competent in this particular track. So I will add this as a new server. So as you can see, there's termnz, which has been added here. Here is the data that I entered, the route to the server, description and notes, tracks that it's used in. The view link just lets me go in and re-edit this, so I might decide, for example, that I also want it in the play track, update the server, and so we now see that it's useful in those two tracks. Now the purpose of entering your server here in the first place is to make it straightforward for other users to find, and there's a couple of ways that that works. The first is just from this page itself. You can see the servers all in one page. You can see the tracks which they're for. So again, that will help someone say, well, here's a server that I can use for my track. The other place where we see this is under the track details and testing. So if we go to my play track, for example, we'll see I have the description of the play track here, which we can go into in another recording, but I wanted to draw your attention to servers here, and we will see that here is the term NZ that I have just entered. Here are the other servers that the system knows about. So these servers at the top are the ones that someone has said could be used in this track. But I can look at the others as well. So if I decide that, well, I mean, the Happy4 server could work as well, I'll click on View. If I go to the associated tracks, I can add this to my play track, update the server, and we now see that Happy4 is also associated with this track. So as I say, a couple of ways to get at the servers, one from a list of servers and the second from the tracks that might utilize them as part of their scenarios. Small thing that might be of interest to people is you'll notice that the URL in the link here is actually a link. So if I click on that link, what it will do is to start up another ClinFire module, which is the server query, pointing at this address. So this is a way to be able to look at the details in a little bit more details of the server in a bit more detail, or you can make a query. So I could say, for example, I want to have a look at all the code systems which this server has. Notice how I can specify the parameters. These are the parameters that this server supports from its capability statement. If I execute that, I'm actually asking for all code systems. So here is, for example, the code system entry for Loink. Here is one for RX norm. Here's a ethnicity group, and I can look at that as JSON. The XML view should be improved. I can look at it as a tree, and you can see that all the actual concepts are here. I'll talk more about the server query in another recording.